What's up? What's up? What's up? Getting on the live stream. Y'all on YouTube. YouTube would take a second to populate. So, kind of get the rocking and rolling soon. Alright. Flip this screen. Alright. We are live. We are live. We are live. Y'all gonna have to bear with me 1 second while I get my settings going. Let's see. All right. I'm just doing some little recording. Recording. But make sure my settings are working. Make sure we're good. All right. Make sure we good. All right. All right. Come up some. Adjust. And kind of get myself situated. Thank everybody for tuning in. Pull this mic up. Pull my microphone up. Check. Okay. I think we good. I think we are good. I actually want to move that right there. We good here. We good there. We are great on the screen. We are live, man. All right. So, per usual, I like getting on here and really just talking about, updates, announcements, things like that. What's been going on. It was funny. I was telling somebody the other day, I really, when I make a podcast episode, I'd be at this point, because I've done a lot over the last, I guess, 10 years I've been doing it, close to it. Yeah, 9, 10 years I've been doing it. But I've done a whole lot of episodes on just things and doing this. I was like, but now I kind of want to just make podcasts when I feel like I got something to say. So, sometimes it'd be throwing me off my upload schedule a little bit. But I'd be really wanting to have something to say and not just be on here recording for the sake of recording. So all of that to say, I really appreciate everybody for tuning in to this podcast. Those that are jumping on my live stream, Doing that on YouTube and on my Instagram and stuff like that, and just kind of, messing with the direction and broadcasting of the channels. So as people kind of populate into my live stream, those of y'all that are listening, that will be listening to this uh, through the podcast airways. So like after I record this stuff and upload it and all of that stuff after the live streams, everybody go to YouTube and go to the Sport and Life Notebook on YouTube and subscribe there. With that, what I'm doing is basically I just dedicated an isolated channel, something that number one is just focused on my bird dog stuff and everything related around that, because I had a lot of merging and stuff like that, between my channels, just because it's real hard to manage multiple accounts. But all that to say, now I'm kind of uploading a bunch of new stuff to that YouTube channel, but then also uh, uploading old stuff. Sorry, y'all. I'm I ain't but one cup of coffee in. Um, so yeah, what I want to do is basically re-upload a lot of the older sporting life related bird dog videos that I make. I really wanted to re-upload those to the Sporting Life Notebook channel and get them off of what is now the Dash Creatives channel, and just kind of be splitting it, because they are two different worlds, although they overlap, and a lot of my creative stuff bleeds into a lot of my sporting life stuff, as it should. But I think it would just, at this point in time, just go ahead and be smart about making the channel dedicated to that. Um, so all that to say, anytime I'm uploading podcasts or editing podcasts or producing and stuff like that, I'm gonna do a live stream on YouTube and on Instagram, as I work on the actual recording, because I mean, why not? I love the process. Shout out to the folks that make what I do possible. So, first of all, the folks that have been like following my content for years at this point in time and become friends. Mr. White just joined us. What's up, Chief? Uh, just everybody that's really tuned into my channels, and become friends of mine, from however far. So, that's the best part about doing this stuff, is meeting people, and continuing those conversations over years and years and extended periods of time. But then also, I got to, introduce and give a shout out to my sponsors, Beretta USA and Field and Stream Pack Provisions. With Field and Stream, you can definitely go to Tractor Supply, and go check out their feed. It's honestly the most impressive feed that I've given my dogs at this point in time. I can visually tell the weight gain in them keeping that weight, throughout the season. And I'm actually working on some new stuff that's about to come out with Field and Stream, as far as dog food and all of that stuff. So there will be updates there pretty soon. Um, so that's definitely one of the things that I wanted to shout out to them, because I know a lot of folks was like, man, is it, is what they sell at Tractor Supply, that blend, is that the only one? Yes, but no. So there's some new stuff coming up with Field and Stream very, very, very soon. So y'all go check them out, man. Field and Stream Pack Provisions, and then of course Beretta USA. It is their 500-year anniversary, which is really freaking dope. Um, Man, like, Beretta has been around 500 years. That's a long time. Uh, that's a lot of history. And like, as I think about like the history of bird dogs and like these books and stuff that I got, that I read on them, what's crazy is those books go back far enough into bird dog history, where it overlaps Beretta shotguns, which is really cool to think about. So go check them out, man. Beretta.com. or BerettaGalleryUSA.com. Go to Beretta Gallery USA too. They got some of the apparel and all of that stuff, man. Like, go check them out. We've done some really cool partnership stuff with them product wise. And so, during the holidays and stuff, and those opportunities are going to be coming up pretty soon. Again, I'm kind of planning with them right now on like what the outlook of my involvement for things looks like this year. Um, so updates from that will be coming soon. Um, what else do I want to talk about when it comes to? Oh, duh. I was using Beretta shotguns in this recent hunting workshop with Black to Earth, the organization, this past weekend, which is really cool to put, really nice guns into people's hands that are really genuinely interested in getting to hunt, getting interested in learning to hunt and learning, the types of resources. I'm real big on heritage, man. Like, I've really, in a lot of these workshops, I use them as opportunities to talk to people about like what you're paying for as far as Beretta shotguns, and not even being salesy and promo it. Like, no, actually, what are you paying for? Which is, I tell people you're paying for heritage. Particularly in Black communities, like I want our relationship to firearms to be something that represents heritage, right? I think it's a really cool when we talk about like generational wealth and stuff like that. Those conversations always come up, in various communities. I say the Black community because that's just what I hear it in. But generational wealth, like, part of that is really cool to be able to translate that into the firearms that we use, right? Like, it's really cool to say that, like, my WLL, my 486 Parallelo, like, those guns will be in the hands of like my grandkids one day, and hopefully my great grandkids. Like, that's really cool. And that is something that I'm very much so passionate about introducing. So it was really cool. I'm gonna talk about it more, but it was really cool to introduce people to like the first shotgun that I had, which is, shoot, that gun's probably over 100 years old, or not probably, definitely over 100 years old right now. But it was a single shot 410, and then to put that side by side to Diamond Pigeon, right? Like in 410. That's just and it really does show the transition of time. So that's really awesome. Um, so I got a lot to talk about, and then this part of the segment, I'm going to go and I'm going to upload it to the rest of the podcast, and the rest of this episode and podcast will be the Black to Earth workshop that I just did this past weekend. And talk about wanting to talk about bird dogs and the way in which that I hunt and use dogs and stuff like that. Try to like introduce people to like that concept and that idea without the actual dog. That was fun and interesting. But what it really did, and I guess I'll just go ahead and get into it. What it really did was force me to have to open up to the greater scale and scope of hunting and what it looks like all the other elements, instead of the ooh and ah over a dog. Like, you know, it was a really cool event, but there were just some restrictions in place, and I couldn't bring my dogs up there. Um, but I was able to bring some Bob Whites that I was using to train with. So I'm gonna talk about that. But anyway, so what was the Black to Earth workshop? So what it was, a young lady named Michaela, who is the founder of the organization. I think I'm pretty sure she's the founder of the organization. Um, Reached out to me through my Minority Outdoor Alliance email, because that's generally what people have, and was like, "Hey, uh, you know, do you know anybody that can do like a workshop in tracking?" And I was like, "Yeah, I mean, I know how to track. I could do that for you." But like, is that all you're looking for? Is this attractive? She was like, no. Somewhere in the conversation, it basically came down to she was looking for actually like hunting introduction, right? Like the intro to hunting, just in general, is what it came down to. So I was like, oh, bet I got you. Uh, I got a whole template for that, right? And so it was really cool to be able to connect with her. This is the first time I met her. She works I cannot remember what agency, but I think it's the Forest Service. But anyway, um, she reached out to me. I got reached back. We connected, and it was a pretty quick turnaround. So it was this past weekend, and at the event, there were different things like yoga and all kinds of stuff like that, or I think it was like Pilates, and then there was like stargazing, and then there was, of course, my hunting workshop, and then there was something else, right? Like it was a whole weekend full of different activities in the outdoors to get people, um, us folks out there in the outdoors, and interact with it in different ways, right? And I thought that was really cool. Small organization, right? And so I like those very, very, very niche events that really just capitalize on like the bringing small communities out, right? Like starting small and then growing it, right? And so Michaela and I had a lot of just overlapping um interest when it comes to doing it more and like expanding on that vision and all of that stuff, which is really cool. So um I come up there, and of course, I couldn't bring my dogs. So what I did go through was history of hunting and conservation, and kind of talk about that. But what was important to me, what was most important to me, is the why, right? Like I kind of want to know what, like it was small enough. It was only like it started to be about only 3 or 4 people in my group initially. And then that grew over time as I started to get into like the game processing part of the workshop. But and I didn't say thank y'all for joining the live stream, guys. Thank y'all for being here. Um, so I like to ask people like what's your drive to being here, right? Like it's no coincidence that we get driven to being in the outdoors, and like what's your calling. And that was really cool to figure out what people's interests were and drive them. And so throughout that, I started talking about the history of conservation, just a general timeline, right? Like I didn't want to water hose it, but I had about 3 hours to do it. Then, of course, gear and apparel, which that seemed to generate a whole lot of interest um, in, you know, what to wear. And my biggest thing is it's not always camo, 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 right? Like, what's the etiquette? What's most presentable for the venue, right, or the space? Appropriate firearms, not just the types and calibers and gauges and this and that. Like, that's cool, but like, where are these things appropriate, and what are the context for various types of hunting gear, apparel, and firearms. So that was really cool, and that seemed to generate a whole lot of questions and interactions too. But again, it's really cool to see what draws people outside. Some people have been, it's like as I've been doing this over the last few months, um, as far as the last two events, I mean, I've been doing it for years, but the last two events, I should say, out in California and then here, you meet people that are like on this outdoor journey, right? And it's like they did the non-consumptive nature part of it, and now they're like, okay, I want to get into hunting. Now I want to get into fishing. And so it seems like there's a lot of folks that have this matriculation into it, and then there's some folks that just have a genuine like, I just want to. I'm all in. I'm hunting all in, and that was really cool. To even in a small group, I got a mix of that. Lots of ladies, which has always been fantastic in all of the events that I've done, I've seen quite a good number of women that are actively, taking the hunting role head on, which is really cool. So that's that's kind of where the workshop started. And then I also, what in the world? Get that out of the way. Then stepped on a tack. I was like, oh, I didn't realize I dropped a tack on the floor. Um, so I also started with the introduction of books and literature. So like one thing that's also real important to me is, again, yes, heritage, but like the idea that I've been able to contribute to a lot of books that I could recommend to people in getting in the outdoors. And by recommendation, yeah, there's a lot of literature and there's a lot of content, stuff like that on how to hunt. So like I don't want to just recommend a how to hunt type book. The stuff that I was recommending to them was Rue Mapp's Nature Swagger. Why? Because it's the cultural appeal, right? It's being relevant and showing how people connect with the outdoors through hunting and various other means, sporting means, right? And general means and leisurely means and you know health means, all kinds of stuff like that, right? But then also uh I was able to again tell my story about bird dogs and my relationship to in that book, and it's much more narrative driven and much more personal, you know, one to one kind of feeling. And then Rue is a mentor of mine, right? I call her Auntie Rue, but she's a mentor of me and Ashley's, and so that was one of the books. And then Ben Long's book, uh, the Hunter and Angler's Guide to Raising Hell. I contributed to that book, right? And it's still narrative driven. Still get to talk about my bird dog, but it's very conservation minded and conservation focused too, right? So I'm interjecting that tidbit of knowledge, and wisdom and expertise and stuff like that. So then, I had my buddy Craig Koshik's book to be able to talk about the actual direct contribution that I had to southern bird dogs and pointers. And y'all know me, man. I got Drip back in, and I'm excited that he's back in the kennel from El Soma Plantation. He stayed down there with my buddy Eric for a while, so I got Drip back. But uh, I think I posted a video. Not I think I know I posted some video, photos, and stuff like that on Instagram about him because he is tight. But to be able to show folks the contribution of history in that context, right? The more narrow focus of what it is that I do in the outdoors, and it still be valuable content in the context of a workshop. And then of course put on my promote my friends, and then lastly Dr. Julia Brock's historical book. Um, that I thought, hold on, I want to make sure I get the actual title correct. Hang on. I want to get the title correct because I don't need to mess that up because I want y'all to go get it. Let me go to the photos. There we go. Come on, photo. Closed Seasons. The transformation of hunting in the modern South. That's what it is. I wanted to make sure I got the entire the title right. But that one again, I was able to contribute a historical account of African Americans running bird dogs in the South. Like that's kind of been my niche ever since I came in, and so to have an an academic focused piece, uh, that she's a professor, history professor at the University of Alabama. Like that's really cool. So to be able to put those books out there to people that are looking to get into the sporting life in various different ways, that's really important to me, and that's really cool. So thank Michaela first of all for the opportunity, for doing it, and then as the workshop progressed, I was able to talk about shotguns and firearms, and that's where folks really, really, really lit up because of I'm an artist. Y'all know this about me. Like I'm going to talk about the beauty and the art and the heritage of not only mine, but just Beretta shotguns. Because of course, shout out to the home team and got to put them on. But then, but just guns in general, right? And change the narrative, introduce a different paradigm to appreciating, shotguns and firearms as tools in the outdoors. I thought it was just really cool to be able to get folks' hands on, you know, very expensive shotguns. When I started out, man, it was well beyond my dreams to be able to hunt consistently with really nice shotguns. That just was something that felt very out of reach and like to the point where I didn't even have my hands on them. It was just like, what is that? And to get very constructive questions on why people would spend the money and own it, and for people to understand that, themselves, right? But then we had another firearms instructor there at the workshop. And it was cool. Apparently I met him before being on the board of the Georgia River Network. There was a kayaking meeting or something like that, and I met him there before, and he pointed that out. But anywho, he was at this workshop, the Black to Earth workshop. For those of y'all that logged in, thank y'all for joining. Um, it was he's and so he was like, oh man, it was really cool to see over unders and side by sides and stuff. That's what I'm bringing, right? I don't shoot semi-autos very often when it comes to shotguns, if at all. Actually, I just prefer my double guns. But he was a tactical firearms instructor, right? So he happened to have uh, a much more tactical shotgun, and that was really cool to be able to educate people on the differences between the two, and show them why one would have one versus the other, right? And so for people that were just genuinely interested, like I thought that filling up that 3 hours was going to be kind of tough because I didn't have my dogs with me, right? And I was planning to do bird dog demos and stuff like that, but it really wasn't. So then the last part of it was introducing them to bobwhite quail, right? Like having my training birds with me. I couldn't bring my dog, so I at least brought my training birds. And instead of showing them like, hey, they had the Craig Koshik book, so like you can see the different types of breeds. In the book, I had it flagged where you can see my dogs, right, and what it is that I do, but so like that's important, but there's a reference there, even though I didn't have my actual dogs there, right? But like seeing quail and saying like, look, this is the thing that you are, you're looking for in Georgia, right? Like to be able to show them the difference between a male and a female quail, and like what people are actually hunting. Because at the end of the day, it although I myself probably wouldn't ever hunt quail without a dog, I just probably wouldn't do that. I do it for the dogs. Like this is a crowd of people that I'm still thinking about access, still thinking about making it something that feels attainable. So at the end of the day, you don't actually need the dog. Like the dog is kind of the draw, right? But like at the end of the day, being able to hold up a bird and being like, hey, look, this is what you are, looking for. Like that is really cool and really important for me to be able to do and to be able to speak to. So that was really cool, man. And of course, when I started taking the birds out and stuff like that, the group grew. The crowd grew from 4 people to like 10. um, and all of that stuff. And then, of course, I had another bird that I had dispatched, and showing them how to do, game processing and stuff like that, which also was really cool um, to see. First off, to find out that one of the participants was a girl I actually went to school with back in middle school. Crazy enough, I didn't even know until we started getting in a conversation. And her grandfather has a chicken farm, right? And she was actually curious about how to process, you know, birds anyway, because she's trying to preserve, his knowledge and wisdom, and like she's starting a podcast, but like she didn't grow up doing it, and so she's kind of learning on the fly. So she was there at my workshop, just kind of as a using the knowledge in a different kind of context, which I thought was really, really cool. What's up, Will? What's going on, Mr. Krause? What's going on? What's going on? Um, Everybody that joined in the live stream, because I've been running my mouth. Thank y'all for joining. um, I, I see a bunch of my buddies on here, and I really appreciate it. I'm just seeing people pop in, and I'm like, oh, I should probably say something. Um, so yeah, that was really cool to get to introduce people to hunting, and then of course in the processing part of it, right? How to clean birds and stuff like that. They wanted to learn how to, fire up birds right over top of the campfire, right? And we had a few of the participants interested in eating it right over top of the fire. I was like, all right, so we got a campfire going, put a couple birds on there, and got it tasting good. They had a few, some little salt, pepper, and some other seasons, stuff like that. Oil and all of that stuff. Because they were obviously cooking and doing lunch and stuff. So we had a couple participants wanted to eat it right off the fire. I was like, all right, we can do that then, no problem. So that was really cool to get folks that were really into it, and that has actually been quite a bit of a niche that I have fallen into. Like I said, I've been doing this 10 years now. I was at the last bird dog demo that I did a couple weeks ago, down in Thomasville, for my friend Miriam, and we were laughing about it because the first one that I did, like, it went really well, but it was on stage, right? It was on like a literal stage, and I had a pigeon and all kinds of stuff. And now we kind of moved into doing this, a lot, and introducing people, you know, educationally, um, through that lens. Like, I've just kind of fallen into that niche, so it's a something I'm very proud of to be able to do through the Sport and Life Notebook, and something that has just kind of grown organically, with that. Hang on, let me check my notes. All right, so while I got folks here too, I'm gonna say it again because I said it at the beginning. I have a dedicated YouTube channel for the Sporting Life Notebook, and all of the old content that I kind of had scattered in my creative, this, that, all of that, I separated them. So now my creative channels are my creative channels, and my Sporting Life channel is just that on YouTube. So go there and subscribe for me. That would be great. And like the videos and stuff like that. That would be really cool. I appreciate that. Um, so that being said, I also this past weekend went to pick up. Uh, Hang on, let me show y'all something. I went to pick up. Let me move this out of the way. This award. Oh, went to pick up from my YouTube folks this award, but this here, which was really cool. BIPOC Outdoor Collective, the Gather for Good Community Impact Award, for my commitment to advancing and preserving culture, conservation, and community. That really means a lot. So thanks a ton. Thank you dearly, and tremendously to Renee and the entire organization, at BIPOC Outdoor Collective, man. I really appreciate it. Like I said, it's just kind of been a niche that I've very much so fallen into. Um, and the impact is ultimately what we're here for. Um, the taking game and the hunting and stuff like that part's cool. Um, but it's what you can do for people, right? Like, it's what you can give back to people. And just honestly, I feel like right now is a time that we really do need to be focusing, on giving back, right? And creating those communities. If you don't have a community, either cultivate or find a community in the outdoors. So just being able to do that, man. So just if you don't have a community out here, like I said, man, like it is imperative in 2026 that we find it and stick together. Y'all just saw what happened with the Boundary Waters. Boom, elephant in the room. Boundary Waters, man. And what's crazy is I was actually drafting an article to continue advocating for it. And shoot, man, the vote happened before I can get it out. So we continue that fight. For my folks up in Minnesota in that area, that sucks. And I'm proud to say that I was able to get there, months ago during the season and hunt with my friends Katie, Lan, Matt, Lucas, Rob, Alex. Like, just getting up there and having a good time. And over the many years it's taken me to do it, getting my first rough grouse. So thank you to the Boundary Waters in spite of this vote. Um, and we just got to keep working, man. Like it's not necessarily over. It just is. It's just we just in a new phase of the fight. I very much so fell in love with that place, and do plan to go back and stay involved there. Go to Sportsmen for the Boundary Waters website. I think it's sportsmenforboundarywaters.org. I think is what it is. But you can Google it. And American Hunters and Anglers, my buddy Land, like go and check out the work that they are doing. Land Tawny is a force to be reckoned with. I'm proud to have him on the board of Minority Outdoor Alliance. Proud to have him speaking. I'm proud to have everybody on the board of Minority Outdoor Alliance. But in reference to Land, having hunted with him up in the Boundary Waters and knowing what his plan is going forward for conservation action and policy and advocacy, like it's inspiring, man, and checking out his pages and the work that he's done over the years. Land is a force, and I even felt his passion when we were up there filming some video stuff and all of that. So shout out to everybody that was up there with me, and also in terms of the award, the BIPOC Outdoor Collective, my friend Renee Masonette, not only founded the organization and runs it, but she's actually attended one of my Learn to Hunt workshops, the one I did in Alabama, and had a great time, hunting over my dogs. And I tell people all the time, she's been the focus of one of my stories that I told at BHA Rendezvous up in Missoula. Was it last year before last? Uh, but anywho, she's been a focus of my stories in terms of getting people, especially women, into the outdoors, but really being mindful that you never know who you're going to meet and what their story is. And that's important because I didn't even know she had a whole fear of firearms based on her family history and some trauma there. But anywho, she awarded me, uh, the Community Impact Award, or she gave me the Community Impact Award, and we getting some chickens and a rooster from her too. So we back on deck with having chickens at the house. I'm excited about that. I'm very excited about that. My wife and I have been planning that. But I'm actually going to be, and this is kind of a tangent, but I'm actively staying on top of this of my gardening stuff, man. I let it slip last year. And chickens was a huge part of what we were trying to do. I let that slip. So I'm back on deck with that. But anyway, I say all that to say thank you to Renee for that. All right, let me see. I think that's it. That's all of my announcements. Um, okay, so shout out to Field and Stream Pack Provisions. Make sure y'all go and pick up a bag. I love the artwork on the bags too. Um, I would love to do some of that. I'm trying to see if I can finagle my way into like doing some design work for a bag or something like that. But anywho, Thank everybody for tuning in to this. Like I said, this part of the episode will be uploaded to the latter part of the recording, which is just some live stuff from the Black to Earth workshop that I did this past weekend. Education folks, just the just me, the microphone, and the guests. Um, if you don't want to listen to it on audio, there's the video for it on our YouTube. So go to Sport and Life Notebook YouTube channel and subscribe there, and then follow on Instagram if you're on the podcast listening. I'm going to get back on top of my newsletter as well. So you can go to sportandlifenotebook.com, subscribe to the newsletter, because I'm going to be sending updates out through that as well. I kind of fell off for a couple of months. Again, it'd just be work, man. Like, it'd be a lot. But stay tuned with that. Shout out Beretta USA. Go to Beretta.com or BerettaGalleryUSA.com. Either one. And check out some of the goods and gear that they have there. They've been around 500 years, and we've been with them 5 years. So we've been with them not 500 years, but we got a 5 in there. So that being said, I'm checking out, y'all. Look for this episode shortly on both the airways and if you're listening right now. All right, folks, 2 fingers.